Hello, I'm Sebastian. Welcome to Nine Nar Trees podcast. Today, I will summarize and review the book. You're Not Listening by journalist Kate Murphy explores a problem most people underestimate. We hear words, but we often fail to truly listen. Drawing on reporting, interviews with researchers, and observations of everyday conversations, the book examines why modern life makes sustained attention to others harder, and how that loss affects relationships, work, and civic culture. Murphy argues that listening is not just a polite social skill, but a core competency that shapes how well we learn, lead, and connect. She also challenges common habits that masquerade as engagement, such as waiting to talk, steering the discussion back to ourselves, or using devices as an escape hatch when a conversation feels boring or uncomfortable. Rather than framing listening as a vague virtue, the book treats it as a practice that can be understood, trained, and improved. The result is a practical and thought-provoking guide for anyone who wants better conversations, fewer misunderstandings, and deeper connections in a distracted age. I will give you key takeaways from this book. Firstly, why listening is disappearing in everyday life. A central theme of the book is that many people have not become worse humans, but they have been shaped by environments that reward broadcasting more than attending. Murphy points to cultural and technological pressures that encourage constant expression, social media posting, rapid messaging, and the expectation of instant reaction. In that setting, conversation can become a competition for airtime rather than a shared search for understanding. The book also highlights how busyness and overstimulation narrow attention, making it harder to tolerate pauses, ambiguity, or the slower pace of another person's story. Listening declines further when people treat small talk and routine exchanges as disposable, because those moments are often the on-ramps to trust. Murphy examines the subtle signals that show when listening is failing, such as premature advice, changing the subject, or summarizing too quickly to move on. By framing listening as a scarce resource, the book helps readers see that the problem is not merely etiquette. It is a system of habits, incentives, and anxieties that pushes people toward performance. Understanding these forces is the first step to resisting them and rebuilding the capacity to stay present with another person. Secondly, the psychology behind not listening, ego, anxiety, and assumptions. Murphy explores how internal mental states can sabotage attention even when someone intends to listen. One driver is ego, the impulse to appear smart, interesting, or helpful. That impulse can turn listening into rehearsing a response, or into interrupting with personal anecdotes that reclaim the spotlight. Another driver is anxiety. When conversations feel uncertain, people may rush to fill silence, offer quick fixes, or steer away from topics that evoke discomfort. The book also emphasizes the role of assumptions. People often think they already know what the other person means, especially with familiar friends, partners, or coworkers. And this false certainty reduces curiosity. Murphy connects these patterns to how the brain seeks efficiency, using shortcuts that trade accuracy for speed. The result is a relationship cost. People feel unseen, and misunderstandings accumulate. The book encourages readers to notice the moment when attention drifts into self-focus and to treat that moment as useful data, not as guilt. By recognizing the psychological roots of poor listening, readers can choose more constructive responses, such as asking a clarifying question, reflecting emotion, or delaying judgment long enough to hear the full story. Thirdly, what good listening actually looks like in real conversations. A practical contribution of the book is clarifying the difference between surface politeness and true listening. Murphy describes listening as an active process that combines attention, interpretation, and a willingness to be influenced. In real conversations, this often means giving the speaker room to complete a thought, resisting the urge to fix or top their experience, and signaling interest through timing and relevance rather than through constant verbal agreement. The book underscores the value of questions, especially ones that are open-ended and genuinely aimed at learning rather than at guiding the speaker toward a predetermined answer. It also addresses nonverbal and contextual factors, distractions in the environment, multitasking with phones, and the subtle ways posture and eye contact communicate priority. Murphy highlights that good listening does not require constant intensity, but it does require presence and respect for the speaker's goal, whether they want advice, empathy, or simply to be heard. The book treats listening as collaborative, meaning both parties shape the quality of the exchange. When one person listens well, it often invites greater honesty and clarity from the other, making the conversation more efficient and more humane at the same time. Fourthly, listening in relationships and at work, trust, conflict, and influence. Murphy shows that listening is a leverage skill. Improving it can strengthen many areas of life at once. In close relationships, the ability to stay with another person's perspective can reduce avoidable conflict, because many arguments are fueled less by disagreement than by feeling dismissed. The book explores how partners, friends, and family members can fall into scripts where each person waits for their turn to deliver familiar points, turning dialogue into parallel monologues. Listening interrupts that pattern by making room for new information, including emotions and unmet needs. In professional settings, Murphy connects listening to leadership and teamwork. People who listen well gather better data, spot risks earlier, and earn credibility because colleagues feel respected. The book also touches on how listening affects persuasion. Being heard makes others more willing to hear you, so attentive listening can increase influence without manipulation. Murphy cautions that listening does not mean surrendering standards or avoiding hard conversations. Instead, it provides a clearer map of what others value, fear, and misunderstand, which is essential for resolving disputes and making decisions. By treating listening as a practical form of care, the book reframes it as a tool for both connection and effectiveness. Lastly, building a listening practice, habits, boundaries, and attention training, the book emphasizes that better listening is not a personality trait, but a set of choices that can be repeated until they become reliable habits. Murphy encourages readers to start with attention management, reducing obvious distractions, creating space for uninterrupted conversations, and recognizing when multitasking is actually signaling low priority. She also discusses the importance of boundaries. Listening well does not require absorbing endless monologues, tolerating disrespect, or acting as a substitute therapist. A healthy listening practice includes knowing when to redirect, when to ask for specificity, and when to end a conversation that is unproductive. The book points to simple techniques that make listening easier, such as summarizing to confirm understanding, asking follow-up questions that deepen rather than derail, and pausing before responding to avoid reflexive advice. Murphy also suggests treating conversations as opportunities to learn, which shifts the mindset from performing to discovering. Over time, this approach can retrain attention, increase patience with silence, and improve comfort with complexity. The goal is not flawless listening, but consistent improvement. By focusing on small, repeatable behaviors, the book offers a realistic path for readers who want to become more present, more curious, and more trusted in their daily interactions. In conclusion, this book is well suited for readers who feel conversations have become thinner, faster, or more transactional, including professionals who lead teams, people navigating dating or long-term partnerships, and anyone who wants stronger friendships. It is also valuable for those who consider themselves good communicators, but suspect they may be doing more talking than understanding. The benefit is practical and immediate. Better listening reduces misunderstandings, strengthens trust, and helps people feel calmer and more connected because they are no longer constantly planning what to say next. Over time, it can improve decision-making at work, make conflict less personal, and deepen intimacy at home by creating a safer space for honest disclosure. Compared with many communication books that focus on charisma, persuasion, or debate tactics, Murphy's approach centers on attention and curiosity, offering a corrective to a culture that prizes self-expression over shared meaning. Her journalistic style makes the ideas accessible, and the emphasis on everyday habits makes the guidance usable without specialized training. For readers deciding what to buy, this book stands out by treating listening as a foundational life skill that quietly upgrades nearly every relationship and goal you care about. If you would like to support Kate Murphy, you can buy the book through the Amazon link I've provided in the podcast description. After reading the book, please let me know what you think and share your thoughts. See you around.